Joining me today is Mike Cryans, who's running for the New Hampshire Executive Council in District 1. Mike, we've talked about a lot of the Executive Council roles sort of in looking at major issues. But I want to touch base on what the role of the Executive Council in helping the citizens of District 1. And while they're not millions of us, District 1 is the biggest district in the state, 2/3 of the state's geographic landmass, approximately. How do you cover all of that, and what's the role of the Executive Council in helping, on a day-to-day basis, the citizens of District 1?
Sure. Well, first of all, you're right. It's big. And one of the advantages I think I have is that I grew up in Littleton, which is about 60 miles north of Hanover, so I have a good stopping spot. My mom's 93 and she still lives in the same house. So, in fact, last night I was up in Lancaster for an event and I drove through the town and I called, because I call her every night. She said, "Oh, of course you're coming home." And I said, "No." I said, "I'll have to go back, Mother." I said, "I've got to be on a TV station in the morning." So, sort of bought myself some time. But the point is, I think when you grew up in the northern part of the state, you have a good sense and a feel for, especially like Coos County and Carroll County and stuff like that. A big issue I see in the real northern part of the state is the exodus of young people. When I grew up in Littleton, Berlin was a vibrant community. Now there's about as many people in all of Coos County as there is in Hanover and Lebanon. And that's not talking the work population, that's just talking the regular population. And it's sad to see that many people. I was up in a restaurant in Berlin one day and I saw 3 women. I would say they're probably all in their 80s. And I went over and introduced myself and said, "I'm running for the Executive Council." I said, "Are there any issues that concern you?" And that was the issue. One of the ladies said, "We're losing all our young people." And basically I think what she said is, we've had a good life here. And Berlin's a nice place to live, but there's very few young people and there's not enough jobs. And so I think economically we've got to figure out a way to start spurring jobs. I'm not a big advocate to think that somebody's going to come and plunk down a 500-person job plant in your community. I think more often we're going to have incubators in which we develop firms that might turn into 30 and 40 and 50 people. We've had some success in the Lebanon area and the Plymouth area with our 2 incubators in Grafton County. And I'd love to think maybe that model can work. I also think that even though I'm sitting on a college campus and I have a son who's in college right now, college isn't for everyone. Apprenticeship programs, internships, anything that can get some high school kids. I'll give you a good example as a county commissioner, LNAs, working in your nursing home. Not a bad paying job, and sometimes the kids, after they've spent a year or two, go on and get their RN. It's a good experiment whether you want to do that type of work or not too. So there's a lot of different approaches. I think the other part that you asked about, what does the executive counselor do on a day-to-day, to affect the lives of people. You get contact constantly from select boards on an issue, maybe a road that concerns them. You bring DOT up to look at it, and somebody said, "Well, will they come?" I said, surprising when the executive counselor asks, they show up.
Well, DOT knows every contract they let is going to be voted by. And as you said, the executive council, you need to count to 3. Right. And if they lose 1, then they've dropped their math.
Yeah, it's proportionally it works not in their favor. So that's a big help. So you get that. In northern New Hampshire right now, we have a huge issue that, I shouldn't say northern New Hampshire, it starts in the north and runs all the way down through. It's the transmission of power from up in Canada down to Franklin and then into Massachusetts. Northern Pass, that's a big concern. So, that will be there for a while, and so the Executive Council will play a role in being there. And, sometimes what you do is help to bring people in that are very knowledgeable. In my 19 years, and actually I think in my whole work life, I've often felt that you don't have to be the smartest person always, but what you have to do is get the right people involved. And sometimes it means bringing somebody from Department of Environmental Services up, look at something at Mascoma Lake or something like that. So I think you're the voice of that person in that district in Concord, but also you're bringing Concord, out of what I call their comfort zone into their district. And for some of them, it's amazing. I've seen this before where they'll say, "Boy, it's a long ride from here up to Haverhill." Well, we go from Haverhill to Concord a lot, so it's no different. But they look at it totally different. But they look at it totally different. So you've got to get them out of Concord to do the things that are necessary.
Okay, well, we're out of time now. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, I've appreciated your time too, John. Thanks.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Capital Connections, your weekly access to politics and policy along the I-89 and I-91 corridors and how it impacts your life in our region. If you've got a comment or an idea for a future show, why don't you send me an email? But in the meantime, please join us again at this same time next week for another edition of Capital Connections.